Hello, Miss Cheney. In everyone's defense, in Donald Trump's defense first, in other words, we have black people's whites of eyes. We have means to discern since we were our kids. Fake integrity and fake news. Collusion. We don't discern because we see them trying. In other words, but they're planting fake identity theft, fraud, slanders roles that are manifest because that was also a method that was against our founders. But we have what they communicated about that. We have roles with that self-valued being and haven't been changed. And roles with that using their words, leaving out what they declassified about that. So it's very serious, black people. We have their roles with their uses of their knowledge of good and evil. For example, Judge Napolitano and his sources. One of the best YouTube channels on there, trying to get a spot where everyone can pay attention. Because a lot of people are not paying attention. Judge Napolitano said he really made up to it. If it's legitimate or not, but otherwise nature itself shows it isn't legitimate, if it's not the way he's saying it. But Judge Napolitano has a source named Josh Scott Ritter, and he said that we almost died like a month or two ago, the whole world. How long has Russia and America had nuclear weapons pointed at each other and been hurting and torturing and killing each other and our roles while the suburbs were designed before our founders were born in America? And demonstrably, it's more probable and demonstrable per the method that has them like that in Russia because of the breaching method there too. It was already entrenched. This came from before modern religious messengers were even born. This uses roles with the difference of the people attacking the religions or the religions, and then speaking about their morality and their justifications after as collusions, leaving out and make as collusions too against anyone who would speak honestly about the. Even if you don't know about it, if you speak about what it's being spoken about at the beginning of the Old Testament, right where it says too, only defend right here. It doesn't say go defend the other parts of the Old Testament. It says only defend right here. It doesn't. It says only right here where the names of the people, the sciences will come together, and the part that comes before it, where the identity of all space/existence is parsing between what is positive and negative, where we're is parsing where and how it can make more positive out of what is already an identity of relativity to positive and negative to an extent, where more also further positive to itself is being made. Within as this value, the value of this parsing, as the value of a quality of diffusion, the quality of diffusion that we are, humanity individually grouped together, now as systems tactical ulterior, from that necessary to maintain the republic for which we stand, yet still abridged. In other words, please follow mandated law. It is recorded that for a whole bunch of criminal enterprises and people from Saudi Arabia had collusions with people at my grammar school and each campus I went to. And there were timed use/s of that leading up to the World Trade Center attack in that context and since. It is also recorded how used remotely is the identity of America's name and of Saudi Arabia's name. And these are World Trade Center cover-ups that also involve how they need to treat it and did treat the the world capital. Increasingly names intelligence roles with spots next to the state capitol of Connecticut has something to do with the World Trade Center attack. Increasingly, people at Harvard Hospital have been planting evidences at and next to campuses and at corners of streets involved. And these are people involved with medical campuses interstates. These are people involved with all kinds of criminally foreign influence uses of Washington, D.C.'s syntax and functions, remotely criminally foreign influence / hyper criminally foreign influence used. In other words, at the same time with the news, which is more accurately news predicate acts roles and news predicate acts methods roles. But there are proofs that President / Chief Trump refers to it instead as fake news because there are also hyper criminal foreign influences involved, even if he doesn't understand them that way. Even though that's a phrase I'm making up. I'm not a lawyer, but there, like for example, all the criminal foreign influences with the roles with those laws with colonization and slavery before America's founders were born. In other words, those are roles with criminal and seditious natures of positive and negative treatment, simultaneously keeping other things, others themselves blamed for what the identity of the breaching method was causing. Mostly the worst, and using where its difference of roles left out and replaced instead. Nature's demonstrations of that instead employed blamed on others as tools to keep measured self-value rules, blaming and having blamed other things, others themselves, for what nature actually demonstrated. So, also they use truths for lies. The intelligence community recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed when I was a kid and then as an adult. They influenced kids on Morgan Circle and adults who also sought me out too to confess and demonstrate, recorded the same thing, but also they pretended other. There's some judges and prosecutors who have a Michael Kerr and a Jerry Kerr and their father. I believe the father is dead, but they have roles with them, with people who went to my grammar school that I never had anything to do with on campus. They try to make fake exceptions too. With Paul Zano, one time they had him, they replaced where Rick Faglione was sitting next to me for a brief second, and they pretend I know them. And then they had the Paul Zano, but I never communicated with them. Their influence to plant evidences. And he was acting. He showed me that he was acting. He was like animated, like too, because he had some. I knew him. I remembered him from years before from Millwoods Park. So there are connections between people involved with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and the interbranch in a whole bunch of different countries at the same time. He sought me out as a stranger to record, confess, demonstrate, confirm what other kids were also did at different times. Kids I never saw him with, Paul Zano. He has roles with intelligence families at Trinity College and next to it. Also with people involved with wire crimes in Weatherfield Police right now. They said the name Kalal. They didn't say the whole name. But there's a Phil Kalal further involved on my street with people from Whiting Forensics involved with him and with various courts, judges, and prosecutors involved with him along roads and routes with predicate acts through time. And there are some leasing agents involved, including ones involved with other leaders of kids and abuses of them, but also in a form where it's roles with federal evidences crimes and confirming such. But it's also relative to where and to how on a mass scale. The rights to lie, including to family members about other family members, is exploited. So increasingly, people from the medical campuses have roles with unmarked police forms. And how I know this is how they were timed uses of a whole bunch of different countries and our own people with involved intercities who've been putting over there. But one of the things is concentrated roles with themselves is at and next to Harvard Hospital, The same ones, though, that are next to other hospitals. The intelligence role, the family has roles with hospitals. On a mass scale, they're putting fake transcripts there. Their roles with it that are collusions with uses of all natures of investigations and of investigators used remotely, criminally, foreign influence, tactically, delusions, or originally and still black pupils. Miss Cheney, please get the Weathersfield police on paper, one name and sequence. They know I caught them with that. I caught them doing. I forced people to call the police without telling them why. Told them I was going to force it, and I was violent for days verbally. But I never hurt anyone physically. That's because, like for example, as you'll discern, a whole bunch of people tied to a Kevin Dillon, involved with a whole bunch of natures of organized crime and abuses of each age of fact treating nature, and with and recorded clearer than day, conscious use /S of where and of how and of why really veterans buildings are designed the way they are, looking like those buildings in New York City that little kids in the suburbs could discern simultaneously relative to where and how little kids in the suburbs could discern. There were houses that were built when there were just wagons, even if that even, let alone cars, let alone cranes, trains, planes, ships, let alone the whole species body on the same planet to counter that tactically to nature, not economically alone. With a method better than free. We could have had say this part of, we should do it as an experiment too, and just to get better at it. There's a part of Connecticut where everyone's foundation's starting to have problems, or at least if we have some of them that agree next to each other in America houses to do things for nature itself too. There aren't even worms in the soil to come out of it anymore to feed the birds, especially in the rain, and the fish, which are no longer there to be fed anyway. The whole ecosystems, fish, crawfish, catfish, bass. In other words, I don't even know more. And we don't even remember them. Everything's tactically to nature to force people onto, even Native Americans, force them onto their value nature systems, tactical from natures, and force the self-value roles with that. And while for known reasons, because you can't be bad about everything, and you control everything. So, but now the one's realizing when they're self-valuing it as being how it was at being and it haven't been used remotely. And everyone blaming other things other than themselves, which nature's continually actually demonstrating. To discern this, we have to look where and how. We have to discern where and how. That is one of the things that is true always. A human fact treating nature breaching method. And who wants to debate that? It will your fact treating nature quality, and I even make it stack more things that is true always. If someone debates that the some of those laws, even just the ones against black alone, are proofs that a human fact treating nature breaching method, not just criminally foreign influence, was involved. And the method involves roles with employments of black and white communicating other for nature as criminal insidiousness nature, and as roles with it, so uses of it consciously as a tool. Otherwise, that body was sensed. Uses of it that way too. Uses of those hyper additional things that nature would demonstrate negative value, nature progressions, age, acts of nature, and demonstrations of them too. Uses of it to employ justifications to perpetuate self-value, blame to other things other than themselves. It's not really just because they're evil compared to the other kids. The ones in New York City, for example, anywhere, but the ones in New York City. Most hurt by that on and off campuses coordinated. Criminal insidious natures of positive treatments and negative treatments formerly. There are collusions with the overt criminal enterprises and private ones. Look right where they have to pretend that they can speak about the law together. Look right where they do. Through social media. Well, I was part of this criminal enterprise. You guys are involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders at the news locations and next to them. Thank God for yourselves. It is recorded how there are a whole bunch of different countries and the hyperforeign involved with you at the same time. But only if you get them on paper and follow mandated law. I shouldn't have to beg to get them on paper, one name in sequence. And how it goes back to, in other words, I put that on the record. I did it slowly because you guys, I saw how they've been reacting using the phenomenon they built where they're putting things with people that weren't even in my classes, time faked into databases. These are people that are lying about what they think when others use their names in the future, consciously. It's a certain type of victim that distinctly, but non-distinctly, that they are together at the same time, used remotely with their differences used remotely. The overt criminal enterprises, the interbranch, the private ones, the news, the names next to them, the insidiousness. Excuse me. With names A through Z, using their evidences, especially the difference of the ones based on actual convictions or not. And they've been lying about the outcomes of legal cases. WFSB is recorded confessing and demonstrating. They have people involved with National Labor Relations Board cases, and they have roles with federal criminals that have been involved with identity thefts and frauds against me with Dearborn Street in Newington, Connecticut, and their neighbors, the neighbors of Eric Jensen, and some of them as a Dominic Lampriata is involved with people with predicate acts, also with the name John LaConche and Adon LaConche. Adon LaConche took her picture, but apparently they took her picture next to me to pretend we had a word of conversation. We never had a word of conversation. She has roles with sequence champs and federal evidences crimes with a Heather Hansen and a Joe DeMauro and a whole bunch of people tied to them involved with through time, with also news and people involved with all kinds of natures of organized crime with grammar school kids and middle school kids. I never saw her on a grammar school or a middle school in my life. And I saw her one time real quick, a fake exception that they make fake exceptions at my high school, like one or two times in the hallway. That was also set up because they had educators. She's involved with people involved with years apart, child abusers, leaders of kids, first force, and people involved with criminal enterprises and private ones involved and religious nutbags involved at the same time. Also, where and how they have that involved with rackets, with the interbranch differences, are planting evidences with the black KKK, Latino themed, Italian themed, and intracultural. Mr. Pruzzi is involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders against me. Per John DeMauro, involved on off Town Line Drive with a whole bunch of people. I know my name, I don't know their name. His roles with other people that have that in common, that brought that up in their confessions. We are trying to make fake exceptions of ties to me. As their roles also with this Joshua Julian, I don't know at all, who was pretending other. In other words, and on the Facebook page of a principal child abuser's campus as one of the ones that forced that. And they hid this from the parents to force them roles. They lied about me to the parents. and they lied to the kids. With some of the kids, there's a Leahy family and their kids are involved with military, foreign, and domestic at Hartford Hospital, putting fake things in transcripts with multiple courts involved with predicate acts with the Leahy family, fabricating transcripts, forging names with other countries too, Russians, a whole bunch of people involved with Dr. Shamsi Ali, people from Pakistan, all kinds of drugs and medicines crimes, and involved in torture methods and extortion methods and slavery methods that prisons and the corrections officers and the courts family members had. Also with names at body dumping spots. Involved with them planting evidences in the news with that too. It's all along Route 3 that goes by the state judicial branch offices of Connecticut and the state corrections offices. These are people with remote uses of the sense and sensibilities of Judge Napolitano that can be recorded, demonstrated, confirmed too. There are proofs that they've been changing and faking what's been digitally recorded. And they're putting these are collusions with sticking fake things in databases, including at interbranch locations, and their collusions with uses of the differences of that. These are also collusions with uses of things like politics pretending to be value when they are not. These are uses of the differences that are good and the ones that are bad to hide as collusions, use slash S of the differences of campuses A through Z, because the differences of them are still collusion slash S. In other words, I have an English teacher from when I started my master's class is involved with the World Trade Center attack through other natures of organized crime. Obviously, he didn't want anything to do with the World Trade Center attack. And through his roles with the FBI, other agencies, there are a whole bunch of people tied to a Scalora family, families. Like there was one, especially one with the names, especially differentially. Like there's a Subby Scalora involved with people next to the state judicial branch offices and conjunctions to it. Involved with people from Glastonbury, Connecticut intelligence, involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, people involved with child abusers, leaders of kids, first forced, and the kids they're planting fake things in databases with foreign and domestic medical families. They also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. They have this Scalora families involved with this. Also next to schools, intercities, and with the police that have been forging, switching names in Wethersfield and planting evidences on all sides of my case, all sides of my street, my house, and with people in intercities that recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed collusions with the different departments with the same house slash S, increasingly involved with wire crime acts and methods that multiple police departments have with them. Increasingly, I don't know his name too, but a roommate, reportedly a roommate of Ray Collo, is one of the ones involved next to Fox Connecticut News. There's also a Chet Casper, increasingly sought me out to non-verbally demonstrate as confirmation his roles with a Timothy O'Brien and a Ray Collo with people at Mark Violet and people I don't know their names with the military, foreign and domestic, next to the state capitol, involved with I didn't even go to grammar school with them. People that didn't go to my grammar school have roles planting evidences with a Kolvinskis family too, all along Route 175. They have people with the name O'Connor, like with the schools further involved with the principal upskirt nature. And there are reportedly two principals, a mother and daughter with that name. And there's a Tom O'Connor involved with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and his lawyer, Robert Chevrolet, involved with people all along Route 175 with federal evidences, crimes, identity theft, fraud, slanders, and with the predicate acts with the news. WTNH has roles with names with planting evidences at corners of streets at their house and people at other corners of streets with their kids, with the principal child defenders campus, has roles that forced it, people that live next to and have other natures of conjunctions to to Paul Kelly, who will tell you, I don't know him. He was influenced to pretend other with a Mark Violet and a Mike Violet and his neighbors involved. And that location is involved through time increasingly with people with WTNH, also at other corners of streets in Wethersfield, with people involved with mail and wire crimes, intercities, and especially concentrated as their roles at and next to Hartford Hospital through time. These are people involved interstates and internationally, not legitimate training, if that's what it is, with their roles with state police families, with the ones that have been planting evidence on all sides of my house, like with the Robert Rodriguez who brought up the principal child abuser's campus to me. And then they faked and changed what I recorded and had him confirm on Facebook too. And I did not communicate with him on my street. They were using the phenomenon of a field near my street to make it look like I knew him. And in other words, and they've been using that from through time. A whole bunch of people from other areas have connections to that role, with also the police forging and switching names, wire crime, mail crimes. They pretend that I had conversations with police at the police station when I was a kid and then I was an adult, sickly distinctly, but also sickly non-distinctly. And then further, not just, in other words, I didn't go to the police station at all when I was a kid to communicate with them. And about those things they made it look like I had fake ties, and when I had fake, right after I was in a car, they had me be around a Ray Claw and Chris Walters. They have roles with the intelligence community, with a whole bunch of other people like they're educators and recorded confess, like a Mr. involved with this too, like a Mr. Neville. People all along Route 3 in the state judicial branch offices have roles with all kinds of federal evidences, crimes along there. Predicate acts with facts. Same people roles with evidences on all sides of criminal civil cases originally and still. And the courts names themselves, like with witch trials and with slavery and with Jim Crow. All this is about, regardless of any of that stuff was made up, it was all about that breaching method that was about the torture, extortion, and slavery, fact-human nature slavery of our founders, and their relativity with their words and their plan. And then they went and got George Washington to use that plan and to help and to force the other founders to be. And that was forced because the breaching methods laws were already locked in and entrenched, and sustained roles were only capable of being counter to an extent. And that was not enough to overcome the breaching methods use / S of everyone. Only allowed to hurt people. Only capable of relinquishing that to an extent. See, but if we address the breaching method itself, that goes away and way better. Replaces it. Just like the same way this breaching method has replaced what our founders communicated. What is communicated is simultaneously greater than and more finite than what is said. Especially when what is said comes with what is declassified about it. It also comes with what is declassified about it left out, but that's self-valued. It also comes with how that is gotten away with, even though nature demonstrates that too. Ugh. Please, Miss Cheney, WFSB attached me to fake conversations with themselves and with others about the World Trade Center attack. These are people that have been communicating lies to Republican leaders and Democrat. These are locations, areas, and states as styles that are incapable of defending themselves and affording unabridged any voice of an individual at a leadership position. They have criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions wrought, takes on power. Power is a conversation. It means we'll be led by that which shows us. It is not our body. It's not the other species' body. That is why and is how. It's showing us its body has why and how. The different species' bodies have the same quality aspects of nature. It binds all things. And the value of Earth's a special difference here. With other species' bodies with no criminal foreign influences too, let alone self-valued roles with that and pretending other. shown to blame other things other than themselves. Some ways the branches of government individually grouped in together. Some ways the intelligence tied to them, which is always criminally foreign influence. In other words, group tactile terror from how the species body of individual bodies and group differences should be discerning by the hyper invisible that generates vaccines. We had answers replaced, even nature's. Black peoples, follow mandated law, please. Facebook is recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed also with New Britain Superior Court, hiding things from Judge Napolitano from before he left Fox Connecticut News. And Fox Connecticut News is being forced, tricked, hurt, and persuaded to collusions with names next to them, intercities involved with Wethersfield Police Department wire crimes and predicate acts. And predicate acts also torture, extortion, slavery method, pretending such is personal. And playing games, you're quoting people, leaving things out, hiding what came first, hiding what's actually recorded. Relativity is real, Black peoples. We're going to examine how the uses of theories into science, the use of syntax, uses of Boolean logic, that even the users don't discern until religion. You try that.